Rangers fans, welcome to season 4 of Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast powered by Believe Network and now also presented by FanDuel. I'm Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis. On this episode, we'll get into the Rangers falling further into rock bottom with their pretty embarrassing loss to Boston, why this won't get better until something changes, and how the trajectory of the franchise changes if they can get some of these people to waive their no-move clauses.
So to start out, I think it's really, really fitting that last week started with James Dolan making his first public comments about the Rangers in 3 years, going on the record, going on WFAN, not a phone, in person, on camera. And he, when asked about the Rangers and the struggles they are having, justified Chris Drury's continuance in his present role by saying Chris Drury is a winner. Not, I trust Chris's plan, not Chris has put together a good team. He said, Mike and Chris are putting together a culture, and that takes time, but Chris Drury is a winner. Note, Chris Drury, when general manager of the Hartford Wolfpack, did not make the playoffs one time. He has not won a Stanley Cup as general manager of the Rangers. He won a Little League World Series in 1989. He won a Stanley Cup in 2001 on a team with 5 other future Hall of Famers. If we're calling him a winner, by osmosis, I guess we're calling Jarrett Stoll a winner. We're calling Dwight King a winner. And that's great. You get to dine on being a Stanley Cup champion forever. But we are sitting here in 2026 now. We are 19 years, 18 years removed from Chris Drury signing with the New York Rangers as a player. And since then, he has not won a thing. And I understand that James Dolan probably isn't in the weeds the way some owners are, where he's not sitting in every day. He's not asking questions every day. He's more of a satellite owner. He'll come around in a rotation, and when we reach a sensitive point, he'll jump in. And over the last week or two, as the Rangers' injuries have piled up, losing your 2 best players, Shesterkin and Fox, the losses have begun to accumulate. The standings are becoming a question, and I'm sure there have been conversations about, well, can we ask Panarin to waive his no-trade clause from Drury going up the ladder to Dolan? So I am imagining now James Dolan is going to be a little more engaged with the team. Whether or not you think that's a good thing is a matter of perspective, and we've definitely seen cycles and ebbs and flows of that, where during the Sather years, it was really good that he was at arm's length, and Sather was largely left to his own effect, and they were pretty competitive in the early 2010s before they pivoted. Now, as you said before, we are at a sliding doors moment for this organization. You have players that have value. Panarin and Trocheck alone, that's 3 first-round picks between those 2 guys. 3 first-round picks, and that might not literally be 3 first-round picks. That might be 2 first-round picks and a former first-round pick that is currently a prospect, but that's enough to jumpstart you. And Brock Nelson got a 1 and a pretty good prospect. You look at what these trade deadline rentals go for, and yeah, can Panarin screw the Rangers if he wants to and leverage a trade to only one of like 2 or 3 teams? Yeah, he could. But you got to hope that there's at least enough of a market that you can present him several teams he could go to. But make no mistake about it. You know, the late Larry Brooks once wrote, Zed is dead, and the Rangers rallied and saved that season and made the playoffs. This team is dead. You do not come back from losing the way they did on Saturday against the Bruins. And it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to get your ass kicked. Those are 2 very different things. And Saturday, that was an old school ass kicking. The Rangers did not want to be there. The Bruins, who are a team that doesn't have much of a direction either, looked and said, oh, we can win a hockey game? Okay, let's pummel these guys for the next 2.5 periods. And the Bruins, to their credit, dummied the Rangers. That was not close. That was not a competitive hockey game. If that were, a high school hockey game, the referee stopped that game after 2 periods because someone's going to get hurt. It's not safe to let this much of a talent disparity go on for another 20 minutes. The Rangers got embarrassed, and then you got the same quotes. We got to reset. We got to reset. You can't do diet starts Monday every Friday for your entire life because the diet doesn't start. You have to, at some point on that Monday, instead of getting a bacon, egg, and cheese, just get eggs or just have oatmeal. You have to start the diet. You can't just talk about it. Talking about it's great, but until you take concrete action and actually do something, It's just noise. And that's where everyone is at now. Even the people who cover the team are attributing JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck's quotes as being largely empty because they can't do anything on top of just saying them. And that's the issue here. This team is untalented. They are littered with AHL guys. They are littered with 13th forwards and 7th defensemen, and they are trying to be competitive in the NHL. This is a joke. This is a team that is against the salary cap ceiling right now because of the injuries and the way they've had to manipulate LTIR. And they are in 14th place in the Eastern Conference, and they are trying to win right now. They came into the year, new coach, veteran core, expensive veteran core. We're trying to win right now. They are in 14th place. This team is a joke.
I saw a comment yesterday that really, it just baffled me because somebody was like, oh, well, the Rangers, 12 years ago lost 9-2 to San Jose and they ended up totally fine. Hey, that was like 8 minutes into the season with a brand new head coach and a brand new system where they did not know what was going on. And yet, but also, by the way, that team was infinitely more talented than what the Rangers roster is right now. This Rangers team lost 10-2 in a matinee game in January. That you cannot compare the two. This is you're comparing apples to Mars. You're not even in the right stratus. So you're comparing two completely different things here. It's such a silly thing to compare when this is a team that by and large has played pretty good defense. They just can't score goals to save their lives for the most part. And also, again, what playoff team takes whole periods off? As for the Rangers, they took the entire Saturday off by the looks of it. It was there was a tweet from, pictures that precede unfortunate hockey events that had Zibanejad scoring the first goal of that game. And that was it. Everybody else go home. The game is over. Well, then you look at the final score and you're going, oh yeah, no, it was over, but not for the Rangers. I'll tell you that. After every single one of these losses, we hear the same thing from Miller and Trocheck and, Lafreniere, Panarin, whoever it is, that we need to reset. We need to do better. We need to play better. We can't let this keep happening. I got news for you. Keeps happening. So what are you going to do about it? And, I'm happy to see that, the likes of Vince and Peter and Molly and, and Colin, those guys are beginning to voice it publicly where this is untenable. You can't just say things and not do them. You can't tell me you love me if you don't show me that you love me. You can't just you can't tell me from a distance, right? And not have the results to show for it. If you tell me after a game that our efforts sucked and we got to do better and we got to do a full reset, and then you go into the next game and get destroyed 10-2, I'm not going to believe you. You've done this. We're 3 months into the season. You've told me that you love me for 3 months, and yet you haven't shown me that you love me in the slightest. So why should I keep believing you?
No way to prevent this as only hockey team where this regularly happens. That's where we're at. I don't care what they say after the game anymore. There's no point. It doesn't matter. This is the exact same conversation we had the 3 years Jacob Trouba was captain of this team. It's great. You can say the right things. The guys on the team like you. You can do media events. You can do charity work. That's all great. At a certain point, you have to go out there and make a play. I forget who it was. It might have been Fitz had tweeted, JT Miller's moving like a guy, like a 56-year-old playing basketball at the Y with 2 knee braces. At a certain point, if you can't make plays, what are we doing here? This is a professional sports team. This is not rec. This is not one of those leagues where you move to a new city and you want to play flag football to make friends. This is the National Hockey League. You guys are getting paid, in the case of Miller, $8.5 million US. Vincent Trocheck's getting almost $6 million US for this season. The Rangers are so over-leveraged for this moment. I went and did the math yesterday because I wanted to game this out in my head and really put it in perspective. Chris Drury has signed $75.6 million worth of players for this year. The average age of those players is 28 years old. This is a team for right now, not for next year, not the year after. This is very different from 2018, from 2019, where we were taking our medicine, we knew we were going to suck, but there was 10 to 15 guys that at least 3 or 4 of them were going to become NHL players on the horizon. There is nothing coming. If you want to get all excited about Gabe Perreault and EJ Emery, God bless you. That's 2 guys, both of which have ways to go in their respective developments before they can become impact players at the NHL level. Zibanejad, Trocheck, Miller, Panarin are all north of 30. They're all 31 or older. Panarin is 35. Panarin, more likely than not, will get traded as long as he doesn't play hard ball as far as being traded. But this is a team that is so expensive for what they are. They gave Trocheck 7 by 5.6, Gavrikov 7 by 7, Borgen 5 by 4. They traded for Soucy with 2 years remaining, 3.25. They traded for Miller with 5 years, 8 million remaining. He gave Lafreniere 7 by 7.45 million. And then you get into the weeds of, well, they gave Carrick 3 by 1. They gave Parsonen 2 by 1.25. They gave Cooley 2 by 3.9. Radish 2 by 1.5. Rempe 2 by 9.75. Quick got another 1-year deal at 1.55. All of these moves were made to be competitive right now, and that's the issue. Because if the general manager made all of these decisions, and coming into the year, we said they were at least 20 to 30 goals short of where they needed to be if they wanted to make the playoffs comfortably and be a serious contender. And if he thought they were going to genuinely defense their way to needing 30 fewer goals to win games this year, you're just on another planet. You look at where save percentage is at right now. You look at where shooting percentage is at right now. It's arguable. This is the easiest it has been to score in the NHL since pre-lockout. That is where we are at right now. And instead of trying to lean into the speed, the skill of the game, the Rangers are one of the slowest teams in the NHL. They are one of the least high-end talented teams in the NHL. There's not a lot of dynamic ability anymore. The plays that worked for Panarin 2 and 3 years ago when he would gain the offensive zone and slam on the brakes at the half wall and the trailers would catch up and he would whip a cross-seam pass or he would drive the net himself, those aren't there anymore. He doesn't drive the net with any real authority, so defenses just take away that pass, and he has lost his ability to be dynamic in transition. Zibanejad is not nearly as fast as he used to be. Trocheck is not. JT Miller, as we said, is very clearly playing hurt. This team lacks foot speed. If a team like the Bruins, who are effectively dead in the water as is, can bully you to the degree that you give up a 10 spot, you give up 2 hat tricks to 2 guys who are developing players and are not a step. Like, if Pasta dings you for 4, you feel bad about it, but he's one of the 5 best goal scorers in the world, fine. We're giving up hat tricks to guys I had to Google when I saw who they scored. This is as dire and bad as it's been. Because don't get me wrong, second half of 2017, when they're dressing Rob O'Gara and Ryan Sproul, it's ugly. It's as bad as it gets. But there was a plan. There was a sense of direction that, okay, we traded everybody on this team you like other than Henrik Lundqvist and Matt Zuccarello for now. But in 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a reward. You know what your reward is 3 years from now, Andrew? 36-year-old Mika Zibanejad and 37-year-old JT Miller. That sounds great to me. I, for one, can't wait to see how bad JT Miller's knees are 3 years from now.
You got to remember this, and, you know, the Tampa Bay Lightning came out and said this a couple of days ago where they were asked about Darren Radish's extension. Yep. Because Radish has been playing this is like he's playing like an all-star. He's been awesome for them, seemingly out of nowhere. And he's been playing like this for the entire season. And you know, they were asked about an extension for him. And the Lightning, because this is a team, an organization that wins like for real, not just saying that they're winners, but they actually win Stanley Cups. Their response was, he's been playing awesome, but we're going to hold off until we see more of a sample size. We want to see Radish play the whole season, and then we'll talk about it. Compare that to the Rangers trading for Will Borgen, a guy that Seattle, a team that could not defend well, gave away. And after 15 games of him being here, was like, 5-year deal. Now, sign it. Now, we here. What are you waiting for? Here's the contract. As if like he put up, you know,
Or if there was going to be a crazy market. Like, oh my God, Will Borgen got to unrestricted free agency?
Will Borgen's on the market. Like, it'd be one thing if, again, if you traded for Nick Lidstrom and you gave him a 5-year deal off the bat, yeah, that makes sense. Nick Lidstrom is worth an immediate extension. But there's certain players that when you trade for, it's like, okay, you have to extend them right now. They are that good. You're telling me that you needed to give Will Borgen a 5-year deal, 15 games after you signed him? It's, and by the way, I'm not saying Will Borgen's been the problem this year. That's not what I'm saying. But it's
he's been awful. To be fair, he's been awful since December. He has been unplayable.
Yeah, he has not been great. But what I'm saying is, if you zoom out for a second and you look at how winning franchises deal with contracts, again, we go back to the Stamkos thing. Steven Stamkos was the face of the Lightning. He was somebody that was there, was drafted there. I think it was in 2008, and he was there his entire career. But Tampa Bay was like, we cannot give this guy a long-term contract at this stage of his career because he's slowing down. He's been a power play merchant. He hasn't been contributing at 5-on-5. We're going to let him walk. And that's what they did. They made the hard decision to do that. Then he got paid a bunch of money in Nashville. And yeah, he's been lighting it up lately, no doubt about it. But for the vast majority of this new contract, he hasn't lived up to it. So the Lightning saw this. They saw the red flags, and Nashville kind of ignored them for what it's worth at the time. This little, sample size notwithstanding, for the most part, Nashville was like, oh yeah, it's Steven Stamkos. Look at his resume and what he did. But now they didn't look at, what could he do for us now? Which goes to show why Nashville has never won a Stanley Cup. Yeah, they got to the finals once, but winning franchises look at what can they do for me now. They remove the name and say, okay, this is the sample size. This is how a player plays. Can they contribute to winning now? Not what they did or how much we liked this guy 10 years ago. Can they contribute to winning now? And winning franchises make the right decisions when it comes to player choices like that. And teams that lose, well, they don't do that.
It's one of the great conundrums about this team. And we talked about this at the time last year. What was the rush? And we all got gaslit. We got gaslit because they said, well, I shouldn't say, the team told everybody who covers the team, we love the fit with K'Andre Miller. We want them to play together. And then they traded K'Andre Miller for a player they don't really play for no real reason other than Mike Sullivan doesn't want a small second guy who's offense first on the back end. So that's neither here nor there. There is no credibility with this front office anymore. They have had 5 years of this. They have fired 3 different head coaches. They have drafted 30 players. Only, I think, 3 or 4 have made the NHL. They've got maybe 30 some odd games combined between all of them. They have, I think, 6 goals, something along those lines of the players they've drafted. The players they have targeted, whether it is Borgen or Soucy or Parsonen or any of the mishmash of guys they have rotated in at various points in the bottom 6 over the last year and change, there is nothing here to indicate that Chris Drury understands what's going on in the NHL right now. Because as I said a few minutes ago, they came into the year, and when we had Arthur Staple on, I asked him, does it make sense to be building a team around defense and goaltending in 2025? As great as Shesterkin is, and as great as the team defense was that first 2 months of the season. And don't get me wrong, the Rangers' underlying numbers through mid-November were lights out. They just could not score. And you saw the dam break on that it is impossible to play great defense when you don't eventually score. You wear down, you break down. It is impossible to play perfect defense indefinitely for an entire season. For a game or two, sure. There are going to be games you got to win 1-0 or 2-1. That's just the nature. Some games are low scoring, some games are high scoring. But you look at the players they have prioritized. They gave up a 3rd round pick to get Carson Soucy last year.
And then sat him for 2 months.
And they went out and got Will Borgen, somebody who was given up on by the Sabres organization and the Kraken organization, not exactly world-class institutions. You look at the way Tampa Bay approaches things, as you alluded to, you look at the way Florida approaches things, you got to be going to the bargain bin consistently. You look at some of the players they've signed to one-year deals, and you look at, say, and it's funny because at the time when they signed Eric Gustafsson, we said, yeah, whatever. He's the sixth defenseman. He'll be cheap. That's the way you fill out the bottom third of your roster is 1 and 2 year deals for guys who just need opportunities to play. Instead of promising, a 10-team no trade clause to guys like Will Borgen, who at 28 years old had less than 300 games played at the NHL level and very clearly was not making a whole lot of headway as a professional, I do not get what we are trying to do here. Are we just trying to collect a bunch of guys between the ages of 29 and 33? Because we're doing a great job of that. But if it's winning or playing in a style that works, when I went and looked at the underlying numbers yesterday, they're 17th in scoring chances. They're 24th in shot attempts, 21st in goals for, 17th in expected goal for, still high, 7th high danger. They're 28th in shooting percentage, and they're 7th in save percentage. It's even worse when you get to the rate stats. Those are just the share. They're 21st in scoring attempts per game. They're 29th in shot attempts per game. They're 31st in goals for per game. They're 26th in expected goals for per game. They're 15th in high danger chances for. This roster is abysmal, and they are trying to win right now. That's why we're still seeing Mike Sullivan, God bless him, dressing a lineup with the mindset of, I got to win every game. They're still running these guys out. Instead of saying, waving the white flag, like in the second half of 2018, when we were looking at Neil Pionk and Ryan Sproul and Rob O'Gara, we knew probably none of those guys were going to make it. But at the very least, they were trying out guys who had no sample. I know what Carson Soucy is. I know what Will Borgen is. I definitely know what Urho Vakanainen is. At this point, I'm pretty sure I know what Matthew Robertson is.
Yeah. And by the way, Vakanainen didn't even make Team Finland.
Nope.
He did not make Team Finland over a guy that isn't in the NHL.
And that was a guy who got significant run last year and this year, for that matter.
Yeah.
And again, you look at where the Rangers are getting these guys from: Anaheim, Seattle, San Jose, Vancouver. Those organizations are not exactly synonymous with winning. It was one thing when they were trying to loot, Tampa Bay and Vegas for guys who had won Stanley Cups or been to Stanley Cup finals. But at least you could lie to me about that. These guys have never played in big games. These guys have never performed well in any serious environment. And teams like the Ducks and the Sharks and the Kraken, who desperately need players, were like, we don't really need them. It's fine. You could have them. That should be your red flag. We talk about this all the time in regards to the McDonough JT Miller trade to Tampa Bay. The fact that Tampa Bay was willing to give you Libor Hayek and Brett Howden, and that's a well-run team that develops guys through their AHL system incredibly well. The fact Tampa Bay, and same thing when Tampa Bay traded Tony DeAngelo to Arizona. They had a year of him and said, we can't fix this. He's done. We don't want him. That should tell you, when teams that are well-run give up on guys, that is a massive red flag of, okay, we cannot trust this guy. And look, this is not to bemoan who these guys are as people. It's not a moral failing to be bad at hockey and be put in a position that you can't play. You look at Braden Schneider's numbers as a first-pair defenseman when Adam Fox has been out this year. He has been an atrocity, but they will keep marching him out there because they have no alternative and because they need to try and save face and pretend he is good. That's what's the problem here. All of this is about optics, and I have been on Drury's neck for the last month about this. I don't care how hard they try if they're not good. It doesn't matter that they're trying their asses off. The team sucks. It's unrealistic to say we just need to try harder. We just need a better effort. We need to reset. We need to come together as a team. If the team is bad, it doesn't matter how hard you try. We have mitigating factors when there are talent disparities. We have handicaps in golf to make up for deficiencies between people so they can try at an equal amount. They don't have that in the National Hockey League. We can't spot you a goal or two so you can play the defense you want to play and rely on your goaltending. Oh, and you got to rely on 39-year-old Jonathan Quick, who cannot start every game. So we will see a Spencer Martin start at some point in the next few weeks, which I'm sure will be a farce amongst other things.
Like, there's just, we said this last week, and it'd be one thing if the Rangers were actively trying to play, you trade Panarin, you trade Trocheck if you can, right? You trade whomstever, and then you just call everybody up and just see what happens. Because it can't be worse. Because that's the thing too, is you're already losing with these guys on your team. So
it can't get worse.
You trading them away and acquiring, potential prospects or, young guys or whatever, and playing them in the lineup isn't going to make you lose worse. You're already losing worse.
You're already losing 10-2.
You're losing 10-2 with Panarin and Zibanejad and Lafreniere and Trocheck and all those guys in your in the lineup. So they're just every game is 2 points. And I think it was John Tortorella, 15, when the Rangers lost 10-2, 15 years ago, whatever it was. I remember, for some reason, I vividly remember this quote and nothing else from because I was in middle school at that time. But I very, very vividly remember that Tortorella was talking about how whether you lose 10-2 or 3-2 or whatever it is, it's still just 2 points. So you got and that's the kind of thought process that you're losing 10-2 with all-stars on your roster. That's 2 points. So okay, what if you trade everybody else and you lose 9-2 with Gabriel Perreault and Adam Sikorin in your top six? Does it matter at that point? The season's already over, and at least you're giving the young guys some runway. At least you're just at that point just seeing what they can do, if anything, because you're getting a 10 spot on you with superstars in the game playing for you, wearing your jersey. How could it possibly get worse? The season is over, and the Rangers have to reconcile with that. That's the thing too, that I would imagine a lot of fans are already on board, but there's still a small subset of the population that are Rangers fans that look at the standings and they go, wait, the Rangers are just a couple wins away from being right back in it, which just mathematically sure, but half the season's over and they just got dumpster 10-2 in Boston. You're telling me that even if they do make the playoffs, they're going to do much of anything come game 83? I said this before, if you can't score in January, you think it's going to be easier come April? That's not how that works. So there's the crossroads here is when the Rangers meet reconciliation. When they understand where they're going, then the path becomes clear. Until that happens, we're walking through a forest in the pitch black darkness, and we have no idea where we're going, where this path into nothing leads to, what we're going to meet along the way. We're in the dark about everything until we understand our position, and until we understand where we are in the grand scheme of things, we will continue to be pitch black until we turn the flashlight on, at least to see where we could possibly be going. We're just going to be walking into nothing.
And that's why we were so adamant last year after the trade deadline to play Calvin DeHaan, to play these guys who play Parsonen, play whoever, just to find out, play Berard, play Othman, play Perreault. And instead they were running a short bench like it was game 6 of the Stanley Cup final. And we're running Johnny Brodzinski out there in top 6 roles. And it is why this can't go on. And look, we are going to reach a tipping point. We're starting to reach the soft point where the tickets are consistently under $100 now on the secondary market, which is one of the first real indicators the Rangers are bad. $100 is kind of the floor for game tickets on a nightly basis. Tonight, they're like $86. I know Seattle, non-conference, not a particularly good team, and on a Monday for no less. But that's one of the first real indicators of discontentment. And I don't know how quickly / how viable getting a real groundswell going is. And the other problem, of course, is we know James Dolan doesn't care what the public wants. He has very famously been said, I don't care. I will run my teams the way I want to run them. So maybe, we like arguing with a 10-year-old, we get into a slapping fight with the owner of the team and he keeps Chris Drury indefinitely. He becomes Stalin. He becomes president for life because we tell James Dolan to fire him too many times. But at this point, man, I don't know what else to tell you if you're still defending this general manager. They leverage the team for right now. They do not have prospects on the way. Look at the way they have drafted over the last 5 years. Look at the organizational's development track record. Since Chris Drury joined the organization, Chris Drury's first job with the Rangers was director of player development. From there, in the year after that, he became one of the assistant general managers, and they added the Wolfpack to his portfolio. They did not make the playoffs a single time with Chris Drury as general manager of the Wolfpack. He was promoted to associate GM in February of 2021. In May of 2021, Jeff Gorton and John Davidson both got fired, and he took both of their jobs simultaneously.
And how's Montreal doing, by the way? Do you know what's up with what's going on?
I hear they're not bad. I hear Montreal's not bad.
Interesting.
And
I'm hearing about this for the first time. I don't know what's going on.
I never would have guessed that waiting and biding your time and developing young players would eventually yield good results. But again, at a certain point, you are what you are, and the Rangers can't develop guys. You look at the organization's track record of developing young players, and I don't want to hear about Adam Fox, who spent his entire developmental life cycle at Harvard. I don't want to hear about Shesterkin, who spent all of 30 games in Hartford after playing in the KHL for 6 years. This team is entirely dependent on everyone else developing their players. There is no argument. There is no counterpoint. If you want to give them credit for buying low on Zibanejad, giving him an opportunity and developing him into something, sure, you get that. Everything else over the last 10 years has been imports from other places. And they have given up on so many of these pieces they have drafted or acquired. Do I think Vitaly Kravtsov or Elias Anderson or Philip Hedl or Nils Lundqvist or any of those guys were necessarily going to become superstars? Probably not. But the Rangers never really gave them a lot of runway to get there. We're talking less than 100 NHL games for Vitaly Kravtsov. We're talking, I want to say, less than 100 games for Elias Anderson. And I'm not saying either of those guys had impressed in their workloads, but the team was bad. The team was actively trying to be bad in the second half of in all of 2018 and 2019. You had a 2-year window where you could have just auditioned any and everybody, and we were subjected to things like Adam McQuaid and Adam Cracknell, and God knows who else they claimed off of waivers. And you are watching the same thing again, but this time, you don't have those guys to hope for. There is no one on the way that inspires confidence. They have a small army of fourth-line forwards and a small army of third-pair defensemen. The problem is those are the guys that are easy to find. The Rangers don't have any blue chippers, and you as a Ranger fan need to be hoping and praying they are in a lottery spot and maybe they can pick in the top 5 this year, because short of them firing the general manager and fully committing to a rebuild, not a retool, a 2 or 3 year rebuilding project, there is no light at the end of this tunnel. The perpetual retool of the Red Wings, of the Sabres, of the Senators is purgatory. You do not get out of that. Detroit has not won a playoff series since 2013. They haven't made the playoffs. They've made the playoffs once. Dylan Larkin entered the NHL 11 years ago, and he's been to the playoffs one single time, and that was 11 years ago. That is where you are headed. A team. You know what this is going to end up being? This is going to end up being like the 2003 Rangers with the corpses of of Mark Messier and Brian Leetch, where you squint really hard and it's still Mark Messier and Brian Leetch, the same way it's still going to be Mika Zibanejad and JT Miller. The team is awful. They can't win anything. They're not very likable. They're all very expensive. They're not very good, but the tickets are expensive. The beer is expensive. The hot dogs are expensive. Why don't you come down and see your favorite hockey team?
The one thing I'll slightly disagree with you on is Filipino, because I mean they did develop him well, and also they gave up on him not because of his play. His play was great. They gave up on him because his health. Like he was having so many concussion issues that, you know, when a team like Vancouver called and said, "Hey, we'll take Hedl and a pick for JT Miller," you know, we argued this at the time. Like the trade itself, like acquiring JT Miller was maybe not, you know, the best solution in that season, but you didn't give up too much to get JT Miller. So in that essence, it wasn't the worst. Like it wasn't a terrible trade for the Rangers, but you know, Filipino was dealt not because of anything other than, oh my God, if he has one more concussion, he's never going to play a game again. Like that was why the Rangers, you know, moved on from him. But everybody else, like, yeah, I mean, we always go back to this. When Alexei Lafreniere was drafted and David Quinn played whomst ever instead of Lafreniere on the top six, he played Lafreniere on the third line and said, we're here to win now. And Lafreniere was people aren't thinking about, this is not a pass or anything, but you got to zoom out for a second and think, okay, Lafreniere, a lot of his crucial development. He was just drafted in the COVID year, by the way, when a lot of those games were canceled and, you know, you can't practice with your team. You can't be around people. His crucial development time was cut short. And then when he gets back to the NHL and then, you know, you could play hockey again, you're playing on a third line with guys that aren't helping you develop. So you're seeing the results of that now. When he disappears for long stretches of time and he has flashes of excellence of, oh, wait, that's the guy the Rangers drafted first overall. And then you get, you know, the next games after that, like he played really well in the Winter Classic. And then this past week, I forgot he was on the team. Like I haven't seen him play. I haven't seen him play on the ice at all. And like, you know, last week, the FanDuel playoff odds for the Rangers to make the playoffs was plus 195. This week, 7 days later, plus 600. Like it's over. If you are still on the boat, I'm telling you, the water is up to your neck, and you're telling me that there's still a chance of the boat not sinking. Like it's over. It's Jover, and the faster everyone can you know, accept that and begin the transition of, okay, we know this is bad. We can accept that. Now we need to adjust our plan and move forward. That's when the Rangers will get back on that upswing. Because until that happens, it's just going to keep getting worse. Like for some reason, again, you know, I argued that the Rangers were favored last Sunday against the Mammoth, and they lost that game. And the Rangers are minus 144 against Seattle today. But which, by the way, a team that's figured out how to score all of a sudden. Now they're winning a bunch of games. But, you know, according to FanDuel anyway, they're minus 144, which I would probably bet Seattle on. But I'm not a betting man. This is not betting advice. This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. But this team is falling, and this is a sinking ship that is just not going to get better with the personnel that is currently on board. The faster everyone understands that is the faster, you know, changes can happen to fix the problem. If you have a broken arm and you parade around town pretending you don't have a broken arm, but first of all, everyone
they'll put you on the American Olympic team.
Well, yeah, but also everyone can see your arm is broken. You pretending it's not doesn't mean it's not broken.
It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, like you walking around and pretending like, oh, everything is fine when everyone are like, it's the emperor, with no clothes. Like, his clothes are so great that only the king can see them, but everyone else is like, that SpongeBob meme of like, this is a load of barnacles. Like, come on, let's call a spade here. This team needs to reconfigure and fast.
I forget who said it. It might have been Adam Herman. It might have been someone else said something along the lines of there's nothing more New York Rangers than the fact they had JT Miller twice and neither he was in his prime in either stint. Like, you had a guy who very clearly was talented, but you didn't want to deal with the headache, which, like, entirely fair. I get it. Tampa Bay did the same thing. Tampa Bay had him for a couple of years and said, all right, this guy's a pain in the ass. We can't deal with this either. And they traded him to Vancouver. They got a first-round pick. I think that was the first-round pick they used to trade for, I want to say, Blake Coleman, if I remember correctly. And they figured it out, for lack of a better word. But the Rangers have missed the boat here. And the real unfortunate byproduct of all of this team in 2021 had almost $25 million of cap space in a flat cap environment. They had picked first, second overall in consecutive drafts. They had seven other first-round picks between 2018 and 2020. They had a future Norris Trophy winner. They had a future Vezina Trophy winner. They had a guy who scored 39 goals in 58 games in Zibanejad in 2020. They had Panarin, who had been a Hart Trophy finalist to that point once. And they had runway. They had time. You go back and listen to the episodes of this show after they lost to Tampa Bay, after they lost to New Jersey, and you will hear Andrew and I saying they cannot get older. They need to not prioritize experience. Signing Vincent Trocheck at the time is good because he solves an immediate need as the 2C. But the second you sign a guy who's about to turn 30, wait, I wrote this down. I had this in my spreadsheet. It is right here. They signed Trocheck to that 7-year deal at 29 years old. I'm going to make this bigger because I'm blind now. 29 years old. They signed, okay, so you signed Shesterkin to an 8-year deal at 28. You signed Zibanejad to an 8-year deal at 28. Fox, 7-year deal at 23, fine. JT Miller, they acquired at 31 with 5 years remaining. Lafreniere, 7 years at 22, fine. Gavrikov, 7 years at 29. Trocheck, we said 7 years at 29. Borgen, 5 years at 28. Cooley, 2 years at 23, fine. Carson Soucy, they acquired $3.25 million for 2 more years at age 30. Jonathan Quick, whatever, 1-year deal. But the point being, all Chris Drury has done is make this team older and more expensive. They had so many runways where they could have bought themselves more time, the way Montreal has, the way the Flyers have, where even the Flyers last year, did I think it was a little weird they traded Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee? Yeah. But they recognized, well, we're not ready to compete yet. Let's kick the can down the road and buy ourselves a little more time and get some more assets in here. Now, eventually you have to make a decision. But in 2021, when we were all looking around trying to find ways to get Jack Eichel, the headline of that package should have been Mika Zibanejad and your choice of Kakko or Lafreniere. Hindsight's 2020, of course, but there was one of your off-ramps. Trying to find a cheaper or younger alternative to Vincent Trocheck was one of your off-ramps. This past summer, you could have said, I know Gavrikov wants to come here, and he's not even going to be that expensive. But K'Andre Miller's 3 years younger and has a higher upside. We would be better off trying to prolong our window of contention for another 2 or 3 years with a guy in his mid-20s. This is a very old hockey team. You look at the young guys on this team, other than Will Cooley, pretty much none of them are really contributors. Shesterkin and Fox are another year older. You're going to miss the playoffs for a second time with a Norris Trophy and a Vezina Trophy winning player. And you look around, and I keep asking, what's the plan here? What are we trying to accomplish? Do you really think that if we trade Panarin out and then we just give Alex Tuch Panarin's money, that's going to solve the problem? Because it's not. Do you think trading for Kiefer Sherwood and giving him the next version of the Barclay Goodrow contract is going to solve your problem? It is not. And that's my frustration here. There is no imagination in how we solve these problems beyond, okay, we're going to go out and get someone. Okay, who are you going to get? Someone. Yeah, and it's like the episode of The Office where they're interviewing James Spader. I can't tell you my plan. If I tell you my plan, other people might copy it. That's what the Rangers are selling you on right now. We can't tell you what we're doing. We're going to try and win right now, and we're going to be better in the future. How does that sound? It's like a club promoter. Anything could happen in the club. You just got to get in there. That's what the Rangers are selling you on right now. Anything could happen. We could make the playoffs. We could win the Stanley Cup this year. We might win the Stanley Cup where Urho Vakanainen is our sixth defenseman against the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado. How crazy would that be? That's what the Rangers are selling you on right now. And every game, they are not actively trying to trade Panarin and Trocheck and Soucy and Jonathan Quick and anything else that's not nailed down. You are wasting my time.
Anything could be behind that door. It could even be a boat. Like this is what Rangers are right now. And it's interesting that the Rangers are failing at changing a lot of their roster because they're so old. Like, you take a look at even across the river, the Devils have the same amount of points as the Rangers, which is shocking to me given their roster. They're healthy scratching Dougie Hamilton. I understand he's not the Dougie Hamilton from a few years ago, but he's still a positive player for the Devils. He's getting sat. Like these guys are, Jacob Markstrom got that really big extension, even though he hasn't been playing well the last couple of years. And, they gave up a 9 spot with him in the crease. And the Devils have a lot of the same problems as the Rangers, but the Rangers are just older, which makes the problem harder. At least with the Devils, they have Jack Hughes and, I like Luke. I
got 5 more years of Jack Hughes.
I don't even like Luke Hughes, especially this season. I'm not even talking initially the conversation was, oh, Luke Hughes is better than Adam Fox, because that's what Corey Pronman of The Athletic said, which I don't know. All I'll say is, I will respectfully very much disagree with that take, but that's neither here nor there. Corey does a lot of, good work. So, I'm not here to berate him and that, everybody's wrong every now and again. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, like, the Devils have injured Jack Hughes, who's had injury problems. That's not really his, that's not his fault. That's just kind of the nature of the game. But, the Devils are, and the Rangers are kind of in the same boat. The Rangers are just older. Like the Devils have Andre Palat, a guy that they would love to get rid of, but they can't. And they have Jacob Markstrom, a guy that they would love probably not, to remove that extension from, and they can't do that either. But the Rangers have they have those guys, and they also have everybody has no move clauses, no trade clauses, no move clauses. Everybody, like, why does Carson Soucy? Why does I know that the Rangers didn't give Carson Soucy that no was it no trade or no move clause, whichever one it was. Like, I know the Rangers didn't give it to him, but they acquired him with it. Soucy had to waive to get that to come to the Rangers, but he still has it. He could say no. He could do whatever. Why does Carson Soucy have no trade clause? That doesn't make any sense. It's the Rangers have albatross contracts, and also those contracts. Good luck moving them without no move clauses. But these guys can't be traded at all. They can just be like, nah, I don't really feel like it right now, and they just veto any trade that they want. And the sooner the Rangers, and maybe that's part of the reason these guys haven't been traded yet, is Chris Drury just cannot get these guys to waive. But I would argue, hey, why did you give everybody on the roster some version of a no trade clause or a no move clause if 18 players can't have those? There's a reason why there's a reason why Connor McDavid has one, right? Or the best players of all time have them. There's no reason why Will Borgen needs a no trade clause. There's no reason why Carson Soucy needs a no trade clause. There's zero. And yet here we are.
When you're going down the laundry list of reasons why they need a change in organizational philosophy, that is chief amongst them. They have no flexibility. They are an old, expensive team with no real impact prospects on the horizon. There is no sense of a plan here. The Rangers for 3 years sold you on, well, it's the coach. We're going to do Gallant. Then we're going to do Laviolette. Then we're going to do Mike Sullivan. Okay, great. Mike Sullivan cannot turn a chicken shit into a chicken sandwich. This roster is an atrocity. They have no talent. Without Shesterkin and Fox, this is pretty close to an AHL team. The only difference between this and an AHL team is they have some expensive guys, and they have Panarin. Trocheck and Miller have been miserable this year, outright miserable players this year. Even Panarin's turnovers are becoming a real problem this year. I am really at a point where I don't care. Watching the games is a chore. It is miserable. They are a team that finds ways to lose, and not only finds ways to lose, they find ways to lose that are embarrassing. You go back to last Monday night against Utah, where they played okay for one of the 3 periods, and you had Vakanainen get walked. You had your goalie get run 3 separate times, and I keep hearing about the culture, but it was the goalie who had to punch someone to actually wake the team up. You lose, 30 seconds into overtime because Panarin passes the puck to the other team, and that was only a week ago. And Utah's not that good. Utah's fine. I don't think they're a bad team, but they went in there and they made the Rangers look old and slow and untalented. And Utah is not exactly the Avalanche or the Stars or the Wild. And remember, the bar is not we're trying to make the playoffs. The bar is these are the guys that are on good teams. How many guys on the Rangers are cracking the Avalanche lineup? How many guys on the Rangers are cracking the Lightning lineup? How many guys on the Rangers are cracking Dallas or Minnesota? And you start to think about that, and that has always been my position. When you go back and listen to the episodes after they lost to Florida, beyond one-legged Adam Fox, beyond Lafreniere in that series, Trocheck, Panarin in that series, the Rangers had maybe 2 guys who could have cracked the Florida 18. Right now, maybe really stretching it, Zibanejad could be the 3rd-line center on the Avalanche or the Stars, and that's a maybe at this point. I am just so beyond trying to rationalize any outcomes beyond a massive change. And the guy who has gotten them in this position does not deserve the chance to try and make it better, because he is the reason they are there, and the reason they are there is because he does not understand the situation he is in, or he's delusional. Those are the 2 outcomes. Because if he genuinely thinks they're, 1 or 2 moves away, if they're an Alex Tuch or a Kiefer Sherwood away, he doesn't deserve to have the job anymore, because this team is hopeless. You bring in Alex Tuch, who's like 33 points in 44, 45 games. Decent season, solid player. If you're Colorado, go get Alex Tuch. If you're Florida, go get him. Carolina, go get him. The Rangers need like 3 top 6 wingers, 2 top 4 defensemen. This team is awful. They are not 1 or 2 pieces away. They are 6 or 7 pieces away.
And by the way, morning skate lines are out. Alexei Lafreniere is on the 3rd line. Matt Rempe is coming out of the lineup. Look at that. You got Brennan Authen playing the 3rd line with Noah Laba and Alexei Lafreniere. And Matt Rempe, who has not done anything this season, is out of the lineup. So, but like, man, how far we've fallen. The 1st overall pick, 5.5 years ago at this point, on the 3rd line. That's where we are. But you know what? It's deserved. I would, this is where we are. I would also maybe take Miller out of the lineup, because he continues to show that he is so hurt that he cannot move, he can't skate, he can't really do much of anything. But he's on the 2nd line for reasons. Whatever, it's at this point, it's, Gavrikov and Schneider at the top pairing. So there you go. You said like half an hour ago about everything you need to know about Brain Schneider as a top defensive pair, and he's back out there. So hoping for, if we repeat the process, 152nd time, Nick, or you think you're going to see different results, or? I'm hopeful. I'm holding out hope for it.
Schneider's been outscored 34-23 at 5-on-5 this year. He's an unserious hockey player. I'm so beyond done with him. Basically, the only guys on this team I'm not like totally fed up with are Fox and Shesterkin. That's really it. Other than that,
I like St. Eric.
He tries. He at least looks around and says, "You guys aren't embarrassed," and tries to do something. Jonathan Quick, same deal. Quick is 39, and I don't expect him to be Dominik Hasek, but at the very least, he saw Sean Dursey bump him and said, "You know what? I'm not going to take that," and punched him in the face. Yeah, he got a minor penalty for it, but at the very least, he showed a pulse, and that's where I want to wrap the show on, because for the owner to go on the radio and say they are building a culture is a joke. There is no culture. There is no identity. They do not have resiliency. You know, you read the columns, the Rangers have forbidden Matt Rempe from fighting because he's nursing his thumb. Then why is he on the team? The entire impetus of him existing in the NHL is that other teams are scared of him and they will respect the Rangers more and will not take liberties. He was in the lineup last Monday. Utah didn't care. They laughed in his face when he was out there because they know he can't fight. If you tell a guy that the other guy in the fight has a gun, but there's no bullets in it, they're going to shoot you. You cannot bluff your way through this. And that's why I'm tired of this. It's all nonsense. It's all smoke and mirrors. This lineup is a joke. I cannot begin to express to you. There are so many. Watch the football game tonight. Watch Aaron Rodgers' last NFL game. You will have a better time than watching the Rangers try and limp their way against Seattle. I will unfortunately be at the game once again because someone is bringing me. But God, man, I am so beyond caring. Chris Drury, I will literally be in your walls tonight. Please, for the love of God, someone do something here. Someone. And Elliot Friedman, I love you. If you tell me one more time, we'll see how this goes as far as Panarin waiving his no trade clause, I'm going to put my head through the wall on the next episode. I cannot do this anymore. If you don't know anything, just say we don't have any new updates. Saying we've heard this, we've heard that, I don't know, we'll see. I can do that. I know we'll see what happens because it's going to happen eventually. We will reach the trade deadline that Friday, the first week of March, and he's either going to be a Ranger through to July 1st or he's going to Minnesota or Florida or Colorado or wherever. This team needs juice. This team has no juice. I am so beyond defending anything associated with this team. God bless Mike Sullivan. We said it at the beginning of the year. He didn't know what he was signing up for. This is a lot worse than any of us thought it was. Hell, we thought this team, bubble playoff team, maybe win around. Are they going to win like 35 games this year? Are they going to get to 40 wins this year?
No,
this team stinks.
no. The Rangers, by the way, I want to point this out really quickly. They've played 46 games. Like, we are more than halfway through half the season at this point. They've won 13 games in regulation. They've won 20 in total with a couple of shootouts and JT Miller's heroics in overtime for sure. They've won 13 games in regulation. The only team in the Eastern Conference that have less regulation wins is Columbus at 11. And by the way, they are 1 point behind behind the Rangers in the standings. Like if Columbus, I think they play tonight. If Columbus wins tonight and the Rangers lose, and Ottawa needs to win as well, and Ottawa, oh my God! But that's not, we're not a Senators podcast, but oh my God, what the hell is happening in Ottawa? But like if Ottawa,
we know the Rangers aren't cheating because they can't score anywhere.
But that's my only statement on that. But yeah, like if the Senators get a point in their next game and Columbus gets a point, because the Rangers have played more games than anybody else has ever played hockey ever in the history of the world, they would get to last in the East. That's where we're at. If the Rangers lose in regulation and Ottawa and Columbus gets a point at some point, then Rangers are last in the East. And this is a team that's a Kiefer Sherwood away from being a cup contender. I
20
hate to break
Kiefer
it.
Sherwoods, maybe. If we could play like 35 on 6 at a time, maybe, and we just park them all over the ice and we can cherry pick, maybe we could win more games with Kiefer Sherwood. But God, man, this team stinks. And I said this on Twitter after they lost on Saturday. This is the least likable Rangers team of my life. There were Nick teams with Isaiah Thomas and Marcus Camby I enjoyed watching more than I enjoy watching these. There were Mets teams where guys like not Gregory Campbell, that's the hockey guy, Eric Campbell, excuse me, were getting 350, 400 at bats and batting 195 that were more enjoyable than these Rangers. Because we are all existing in a delusion that they are 1 or 2 pieces away, and they're like 6 or 7 or 8. They need to turn over like half of this roster, but everybody's under contract for like 5 more years. So maybe by the second Mamdani term, we can get this turned around, but it's not looking too great, Andrew.
That's where we're at. 8 Arby's. I Is that account even still around? Nihilist Arby's on Twitter. I'm sure they are, but their tweets are like, the world's gonna end anyway. Eat Arby's, like that. That's the viewpoint right now, and it's just a shame. Like, we keep saying on the show, we would much rather just be positive. It's so much more fun to be positive and talk about the light at the end of the tunnel and figure out, okay, well, maybe like EJ Emery is the savior in all this. And maybe Gabriel, if Gabriel Perreault like was lights out and had scored, some goals and was like leading it was like, oh, well, Gabriel Perreault is like the next is the new star for the Rangers. And like he could be the light at the tunnel, but there isn't one. This is not fun to come on the show and for an hour be negative, essentially. This is not fun. But you know what, though? This is the truth, and we're here to tell you the truth. We're not here to sugarcoat you. That's why I listen to the show. This is where the Rangers are. This is who they are. This is who they've been, and this is who they continue to be until there's a reckoning. Until people understand, people within the front office and the franchise understand that nothing will change unless you make the change yourself and force the issue. You're going to see a whole lot of 20-20-6 records and ticket prices continuing to fall, and people stop showing up because you're just not going to win.
It's over, man. It's all over but the crying. At some point, there will be a moment after a game this year where someone actually does cry during their after the game interview, and that'll be seen as like the Rubicon moment, but it's over. This team sucks. There is no saving it. There is no bailing it out. They gave Mike Sullivan a shit sandwich, and he can only do so much. There is not enough talent on this roster, and the sooner we start to address that, the sooner the chances we could maybe start talking about a future. But right now, your future is 5 more years of JT Miller, 5 more years of Mika Zibanejad. I think it's 2 more years of Vincent Trocheck. It's over. At a certain point, you call it what it is. The Olympics will be a nice reprieve where I can actually enjoy watching hockey. But right now, the Rangers are as dead as they have ever been post that 04-05 lockout. I really don't have anything else, man. This team is miserable.
That's it. All
right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Maybe the Rangers do something between now and then. Maybe we'll get some updates on. We'll see what happens. We'll talk to you guys then.
Later.